Susan B. Anthony was born in Adams, Massachusetts on February 15th in 1820. She was raised in a Quaker home with parents who were active abolitionists. Growing up, her family believed in education and the idea that men and women spoke equally. Although she is best known for her fight for women's suffrage, she also took part in many other campaigns. From an early age, Susan B. Anthony and her family fought hard to end slavery. Part of Anthony's nuclear family and several extended family members moved to Rochester in 1845, where they held weekly anti-slavery meetings on their farm. These meetings were mostly filled with other Quakers, but Frederick Douglass and William Lloyd Garrison made frequent appearances. Douglass and Anthony became quick friends and even have a statue titled "Let's Have Tea," dedicated to their friendship. As she grew older, Anthony became even more outspoken, joining the American Anti-Slavery Society, making speeches, and publishing a newspaper called The Revolution. Growing up as a Quaker, she always was taught that drinking alcohol was a huge sin. During her years as a teacher, she joined the Daughters of Temperance and helped campaign for stricter liquor laws. In Rochester, she was elected president of the branch and made many speeches, but was repeatedly denied the opportunity to speak at the Sons of Temperance conventions due to her gender. During this time, she met another strong, educated woman named Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and together they founded the Women's State Temperance Society in hopes of changing liquor laws. Although they managed to get 28,000 signatures, the state rejected them because the signatures were mostly from women and children. After being overlooked again and again, Stanton and Anthony resigned and decided to focus their attention more on women's suffrage. Anthony later decided not to support prohibition laws, saying that politicians will never take women seriously unless they were allowed to vote, and that should be the current focus. Throughout her life, Susan B. Anthony had seen the difference between how girls and women were treated differently than boys and men. In grade school, her teachers taught boys harder lessons such as division, which they refused to teach her. As the head teacher at the academy she taught at, she only made $110 a year, which was much less than any male teacher. During these years, she fought for equal pay as well as equal education for all students, regardless of race or gender, starting from elementary school and continuing through college. She claimed that you could better educate 10 women in the practice of liberal principles than to organize 1,000 on platforms of intolerance and bigotry. In the workplace, she also fought for 8-hour days and equal working opportunity. Since women were denied membership into unions, she urged them to create their own. She eventually formed her own Working Women's Central Association, where she provided education to the printers and the seamstresses. She made many speeches using powerful statements such as, "I do not demand equal pay for any women save those who do equal work and value. Scorn to be coddled by your employers. Make them understand that you are in their service as workers, not as women." Anthony also fought for dress reform, property rights, and equality in marriage as well. She wore bloomers and cut her hair to prove that women didn't need to dress a certain way. She and Stanton played a huge role in getting the New York State Married Women's Property Bill passed. This allowed married women to own property and have custody of their children. Suffrage, the right to vote, is what Susan B. Anthony is most well known for. After her experience with the temperance movement, she clearly knew that she was not going to be taken seriously without gaining this right. Anthony and Stanton worked tirelessly to change the Constitution, while other groups focused on individual states. In 1872, Anthony and some other women were arrested for voting in the local Rochester election. Her lawyer paid her bill after she refused, and in her trial, the judge had the jury find her guilty without giving them a chance to discuss. The judge fined her $100, and once again she refused to pay, but was not imprisoned for this. Stanton and Anthony became president and vice president of the National American Woman Suffrage Association until retiring at 80. Even in her last years, she headed the International Council of Women and met with Teddy Roosevelt discussing the amendment. In her old age, she said, "I have given my life and all I am to it, and now I want my last act to be to give it all I have, to the last cent." Anthony passed away in 1906, just 14 years before all her hard work paid off. All women gained the right to vote when the 19th Amendment passed in 1920.